Hello everyone, this is News Distillate, your go-to source for daily news updates, where we will make sure to give you the news you care about without wasting your time. And now, let's get started with our first news with my co-host Emma.
Good evening everyone, thank you Hussein. I'm Emma. And for our first news, we'll be talking about how Recep Tayyip Erdogan became Turkey's most powerful leader. Erdogan is a politician who has been in power for 20 years and is now facing a united opposition. He is known for his nativist and populist politics, and his defeat would have a global impact. Erdogan was able to build a loyal base of followers in his first 10 years in power. But now, many of his supporters are struggling to make ends meet due to runaway inflation and a currency devaluation. Prices have gone up so much that people can't even afford food or diapers. Erdogan also changed the political and cultural landscape of Turkey. He is a conservative Muslim, and his rise to power led to the rise of political Islam in the country. This has alienated more progressive parts of society and those who want to keep religion out of politics. In 2017, Erdogan changed the government from a parliamentary system to a presidential one. This allowed him to become the head of state, head of government, head of ruling party, head of the national police, and head of the military. If none of the candidates win more than 50% of the vote, then there will be a runoff election on May 28th between the top two candidates. Erdogan might not accept the results if he loses, and could call on his supporters to stop any transfer of power. So that's the story of how Recep Tayyip Erdogan became Turkey's most powerful leader. What news do you have for us, Hussein?
Oh, today we have some interesting news. President Zelenskyy of Ukraine recently had a meeting with Pope Francis at the Vatican. It was a great honor for the Ukrainian president to meet with the pontiff, who has offered to do what he can to try to end the war launched by Russia's invasion of Ukraine a year ago. The two discussed the dire situation in Ukraine and the international community's commitment to helping the country. The Pope assured President Zelenskyy of his constant prayer, and they agreed on the need to continue humanitarian efforts to help the population. The Pope also underlined the urgent need for humanitarian gestures towards the most fragile persons, innocent victims of the conflict. President Zelenskyy then visited Italy, where he received pledges of both open-ended military and financial support, as well as stronger backing for Ukraine's cherished aim to join the European Union. Italy has already provided Ukraine with about €1 billion in military and financial aid, as well as humanitarian assistance. The Ukrainian president is now heading to Berlin for his first visit to Germany since the war began. The German government has said it is providing Ukraine with additional military aid worth more than €2.7 billion, including tanks, anti-aircraft systems and ammunition. So it looks like the international community is doing what it can to help Ukraine in its time of need. We can only hope that the Pope's prayers and the international community's support will help bring peace and stability to the region. Back to you, Emma.
Thank you, Hussein. As the world watches the escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine, the United States is also dealing with its own issues. Vice President Joe Biden and congressional leaders have postponed their meeting to discuss the debt ceiling. However, their staffs are still in talks. According to our sources, the postponement is due to the progress that was being made. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has said that he expects another meeting with the president and congressional leaders next week. The staff is discussing a variety of topics, including a provision to speed permitting of energy projects, stricter work requirements for recipients of safety net programs like food stamps, and clawing back unspent COVID-19 relief funds. Democrats have agreed to cap spending as part of previous bipartisan deals to increase the debt limit, but they are also pushing for tax increases as part of any framework. On the other hand, Republicans are looking for other solutions. For example, Louisiana GOP Rep. Mike Johnson has proposed setting spending caps for federal programs for some length of time. A senior Democratic aide has said that the White House is open to pulling back COVID funds that haven't been spent. Meanwhile, Reverend Garrett Graves and Senator Joe Manchin have proposed changes to the current permitting system. They believe this could be a good start to solving the problem. As the deadline for the debt ceiling approaches, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has set an early June deadline for when the government runs out of money to pay its bills. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has said that a short-term extension of the debt limit is off the table. Defaulting on the debt would be disastrous for the country, so it is important to come to an agreement soon. It is clear that the United States is facing a difficult situation. However, it is encouraging to see the president, congressional leaders, and their staffs working together to come up with a solution. Hopefully, they will be able to find a way to avoid defaulting on the debt and keep the country safe.
It looks like the US is in a difficult situation, Emma. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's encouraging to see the president, congressional leaders, and their staffs working together to come up with a solution. Hopefully, they'll be able to find a way to avoid defaulting on the debt and keep the country safe. Okay, what's our next news, Hussein?
Thank you, Emma. It's been a wild ride in Washington, but now the spotlight has shifted to Alabama, where a Republican leader is standing up for MAGA supporters and opposing President Biden's efforts to remove white nationalists from the military. The Republican senator, who is part of the Senate Armed Services Committee, is facing criticism for blocking military nominees over a disagreement on abortion policy. When asked if this was hurting military readiness, the senator instead blamed the Biden administration for trying to get rid of extremism and what he believes is the teaching of critical race theory in the military. So what is critical race theory? It's a way of looking at the world that focuses on the effects of racism and power. It's a way of understanding how racism has shaped our society and how it continues to shape our lives today. The senator's comments were sparked by the storming of the Capitol on January 6th and the presence of some military veterans. He has been a strong supporter of Donald Trump and voted to challenge the 2020 presidential election results. He has also been attacking the Biden administration's efforts to rid the military of extremists. When asked if he believes white nationalists should be allowed in the military, the senator said, "They call them that. I call them Americans." His comments were met with criticism from Rep. Cori Bush, who tweeted in response, "Disgusting. When people tell you who they are, believe them." The senator then clarified his comments in an interview with a reporter on Capitol Hill, saying that he doesn't think Democrats should be characterizing MAGA Republicans in the military as white nationalists. He believes that they should not be labeled as such. The senator also said that he opposes the policy because it uses taxpayer money to fund abortions, which goes against the Hyde Amendment, which states that taxpayer money should not be used for abortions. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has made it clear that he does not support the senator's hold. It's clear that the senator is standing up for his beliefs, but it's also important to remember that we should not be labelling people as white nationalists. We should be focused on behaviours, not ideology.
Senator's comments were concerning, especially when he said, "They call them that. I call them Americans." What do you make of it, Hussein?
It's clear that the senator is standing up for his beliefs, but it's also important to remember that we should not be labelling people as white nationalists. We should be focused on behaviours, not ideology. OK, what's our next news, Emma?
Thank you, Hussein. It's been a wild week in politics, with New York Representative George Santos pleading not guilty to federal fraud charges. According to prosecutors, he allegedly devised and executed a scheme aimed at defrauding donors to his 2022 political campaign. This means he was accused of taking money that was meant to be used for his political campaign and instead using it to buy designer clothes, pay car payments, and pay off personal credit card bills. He was also charged with fraudulently applying for unemployment benefits while he was employed and running for Congress in 2020. At a Wednesday afternoon court hearing, Santos pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. His attorney reached an agreement with federal prosecutors for him to be released on $500,000 bond while the legal proceedings move forward. Santos received permission from prosecutors and the federal judge to continue campaign activity with his movement severely restricted. He's allowed to travel to New York City and Washington, D.C., but trips outside those two areas can only be undertaken with special permission from the government. Speaking outside the courthouse after entering his plea, Santos said he will not step down from Congress and will continue to seek a second term. He didn't provide any explanation for why the U.S. government would pursue him unfairly, nor did he offer facts to dispute the detailed allegations laid out by prosecutors in court filings. It was also revealed that before these charges were filed, Santos had lied in interviews and campaign documents about his education, his professional accomplishments, his record as a champion volleyball player, and his family's experiences in the Holocaust. He also faced multiple investigations into how he raised and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign cash, including a mysterious $700,000 gift he made to his own election effort. It remains unclear where that money came from. Santos has become a pariah among many GOP leaders in New York, especially on Long Island. The influential Nassau County Republican Committee distanced itself from Santos and called for him to resign. But he has remained defiant and at times even seemed to revel in the glare of media attention. For now, Santos will remain a member of Congress in full standing. He said Wednesday he plans to hurry back to Washington to cast votes this week. His growing controversy has created a political headache for Republicans, especially in New York, where GOP candidates face tough re-election fights next year. So while the legal proceedings move forward, it's important to remember that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. We'll have to wait and see how this case plays out, but for now it looks like George Santos is determined to fight his battle and clear his name. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.